Thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. My god, the levels of immersion here could not possibly be any higher. Hello my friends and welcome to a questionable video idea. Now, Subnautica is already a very immersive game, filled with an engaging story, beautiful locations, and fascinating creatures. And over the years, I've tried my best to make this game as immersive as possible, trying all kinds of mods. I played the game in VR, I even played the game while holding my breath every time I go underwater. But recently, the mobile version of the game released, and that got me thinking, what if there was a way to push that immersion even further? And so an idea was born, a checklist was prepared. Phone, check. Scuba certified waterproof case, check. Swimming goggles and a snorkel, check. A friend willing to lend their bathtub, check. And after the races, we went. The concept here is pretty simple. I want to play Subnautica while also being in or underwater. But I can tell you, as the bathtub was filling up, I was having some second thoughts. Alrighty, the bathtub has been filled, so it's time to get these off and jump in there. This might be a really bad idea. I'm still not sure if this is like the greatest idea I've ever had or the worst one. We'll find out shortly. Now, just so you understand, the amount of testing I did before this was pretty much just dunking the case with the phone underwater once to make sure it didn't leak, and then checking that the phone was, as the online reviews claimed, still somewhat usable while underwater, which is a problem with many of these cases. And then it was time to get in. Oh? Was that War Thunder? Yes indeed, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and now it's available for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile devices. Immerse yourselves in the heart-pounding combat that puts you at the incredibly detailed helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. And not just like 5 or 6, but over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations. From armored cars of the 1920s to modern fighter jets, they have it all. So, join the worldwide community of over 95 million players in the epic PvP battles right now using the links in the pinned comment or video description. If you're a new player or haven't played in the last 6 months on PC and consoles, you'll get a massive bonus pack with the Eagle of Valor exclusive vehicle decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, 7 days of premium account, and multiple premium vehicles. This, however, is only available for a limited time, so if you're a fan of military history, you definitely shouldn't pass this up. With that, back underwater. Now, starting off, I jumped into the bathtub. The water was nice and warm, something that Riley probably can't say, but then again, he does have a wetsuit. And I was greeted with the familiar Subnautica menu on mobile, which was kind of strange. Now, to their credit, the game loaded surprisingly fast, and soon enough I was in the life pod and figuring out the controls. Small thing about the case that the phone is in, it is very difficult to control the game. You have to sort of press through this layer of plastic to get to the display, which by the end of this video would have my thumbs cramping up like crazy. But before long, I was underwater with my head dunked in, so you can tell I'm not breathing. And as you can see, for starters, because Riley technically does not have an oxygen tank, I opted to simply stick with holding my breath. I got my first piece of titanium and quickly went up to the surface where I was able to breathe again in real life. And let me tell you, I have never been more immersed in this game than right now. Now, the control scheme is very intuitive for the mobile version. It didn't take me long at all to figure out how everything works. But yeah, playing with this case on definitely did not make it any easier. Back in the life pod, I crafted some titanium out of the scrap I found, and that titanium quickly morphed into an oxygen tank. That meant it was time to switch out my equipment, not just in the game, but also in real life. This was a bit of an operation, but before long, there I was with my snorkel and goggles, playing the game fully immersed in a bathtub. Not a sentence I thought I would be saying. I started exploring around the caves a little bit, and this is kind of where my hands started really suffering from having to use the phone in this manner. Again, this case is awesome if you're looking to just like film underwater with your phone, where you don't really have to touch the screen all that much. Not great if you have to constantly press down, especially if it's on multiple places on the screen at the same time. But my immersion levels were literally off the charts, as I would take my head out of the water every time I surfaced and plunge back in every time I went underwater. Here you can see some alternate angles of what my experience looked like. The bathtub was a little cramped, but you know, you win some, you lose some. Finally, I was able to find some chunks and get a bit of copper, which would come in handy for some future crafting. My god. The levels of immersion here could not possibly be any higher. Like, I was trying to keep the water level at around where the water level is in the game, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt very strange. Different from VR, but still very much drawing me in. Back underwater, I went into a creepvine forest because I needed some silicone rubber, which I was quickly able to craft back in the life pod. Now equipped with a knife, I felt very dangerous. And not just because I had the knife, but because by this point, my thumbs were really feeling how difficult it was to operate the game in this manner. I was able to hack a bit of creepvine, also got attacked by a stalker. Now, something about playing the game underwater is that you don't really hear much. Obviously, the audio is very muffled, and that is even further compounded by the phone being in the case. But I was able to also craft a pair of fins, which at this point I considered a pretty major success. Of course, I could not wrap up a play session like this without going to the back of the Aurora to see my dear Reaper friends. I have to say, as I was swimming around, my head dunked underwater, it was probably the most unique Subnautica experience I've had to date. Of course, the Reaper emerged from the darkness as they usually do, which wasn't quite as scary as it normally is, though I do have to say, their roars are loud enough for me to even hear them underwater, and that was a crazy experience. It really made me feel for Riley and how freaking terrifying it would be to be in this situation in person, even though, you know, I'm just in somebody's bathtub here. And then I got eaten, which I think makes for a fitting conclusion to this video. So, would I recommend people to play Subnautica underwater? Not exactly. I mean, look, it is a unique experience, I cannot deny that. Is it the most comfortable way to play the game? No. Is it something worth trying? Probably also no, unless you're crazy like me, in which case, that's not even a question you're asking because the answer is obviously yes. But I really hope you guys like this one. I do have an idea of how to possibly step this up even further, so who knows, you know, maybe if we at some point reach 500k subs, that could be a pretty fun special. But anyways, that's it for this one. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Follow the links in the pinned comment and video description to try it for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. Oh, and save me some of that awesome bonus you get. But remember, it's only available on PC and consoles for a limited amount of time, so make sure not to miss it. I want to give a huge shout out to our members: Thundercracks, Julian, Cody the Bumboy, Callum Whaley, Shitsu, Michael X757, Philip Swoboda, MR, R. Robertson, Yusuf Ismail Tatar, OGB, Master Ugwe, Silver Soul, Kronos, Sander Weinholz, and Krayenda. Thank you guys so much for the support. And if you guys enjoyed the video, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. And with that, I'll see you all in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.